Greetings friends, today I want to talk to you a little about Oath of Moment. I know the new balance slate just came out yesterday, but I filmed this video a few days ago, so let's talk about Oath of Moment. This will give me a little bit more time to dig deeper into the balance slate, so expect that next week. But for now, a few people have actually asked, how am I picking my target for Oath of Moment? So that's what this video is going to talk to you about, some of the logic that I'm using to decide Oath of Moment. And of course, I have actually won my last 5 games, so I feel like I kind of am picking correctly. But let's dive into it, let's talk, and maybe you can leave comments down below into what you think the best Oath of Moment targets are. Alright, let's get into the video. So, if you haven't been using Oath of Moment, then it is the faction rule that all Adeptus Astartes units get, and basically in the command phase, you select one unit from your opponent's army until the start of your next command phase. So this includes if you use Overwatch, and this is one of the reasons Desolation Marines are brilliant, because the amount of shots they get with Overwatch, and if you've got like the bursting / lethal hits, these guys are crazy. But anyway, until the next command phase, each time your model from your army with this ability makes an attack, you can reroll hits and wounds. So, very, very powerful. If you think about Space Marines normally hitting on 3s, rerolling hits takes their hit chance from 66% up to 88%. So it's basically like about a 30% increase in hit chance. And then I guess damage could be anything, right? Like, I guess if you're only wounding on 5s or 6s, again, you're potentially boosting it about 20-30%. If you're wounding on a lower number, it could actually be an even bigger percent. So this is a great ability, and knowing which target to use it on is very important, but also quite difficult. So I put a couple of notes down here for myself, like when I'm determining my Oath target. First, you kind of want to see what your biggest threat is on the battlefield. Like, can enough of your models reach it or see it for close, reach it for close combat or see it to shoot it? And if you feel like you've got enough that can shoot or attack that biggest threat, then maybe just Oath of Momenting that biggest threat is valid. If you watched the list a few weeks back, the guy basically used his Librarian Dreadnought to teleport 10 Desolation Marines with an Apothecary with Bolt or Discipline to take out the biggest threat turn 1 every single game, and he won a GT doing that, so it's totally valid. Another thing you could think of is, like, is there another target you'd feel like you'd be more likely to kill? I.e., more of your units are going to be able to hit this target, it's closer to you, maybe you can make more charges into it. And would that be better than, like, doing, maybe you can profile your biggest threat, or maybe you can take half their wounds? Would be more advantageous to just kill another model. I guess a good example would be that, like, let's say you're playing knights, and they've got like a big knight, and they've got a lot of armigers. You're probably unlikely to kill the big knight turn 1, so would it be better to just select an armiger and just get rid of an armiger with Oath of Moment? Probably would be the answer there. But that's a difficult choice, and I've got a bunch of examples from a bunch of my games, and I'll tell you what I did good, and I'll tell you what I did bad. Another thing you could think about for Oath of Moment, is there a scoring unit that your opponent has on the battlefield that's scoring lots of points? Could it be a unit out in the open holding an objective that's going to be difficult for you to kill? So again, another thing to consider, is there a scoring unit to kill, or is there a weaker unit in your opponent's army you'd like to deal with like weaker units in your army? Sometimes, like, your opponent could be holding an objective with like 5 Battle Sisters. You don't want to commit many units to those Battle Sisters. Maybe you just want to try and kill them with a squad of Incursors, but you're thinking, well, Incursors, it's only like 10 shots. What do they hit on 3s? What do they wound on 3s? So basically, like 10 Incursors, maybe 6 or 7 hits, 4 or 5 wounds. Well, 4 or 5 wounds is never going to kill a single squad of Battle Sisters, is it? So maybe if I Oath of Moment them, maybe I'm getting like 8 or 9 saves. Maybe 8 or 9 saves kills a squad of Battle Sisters, and if I don't kill them, I can charge them, and I've got Oath of Moment for the charge as well, so I feel like I definitely kill them. So I've done that in games as well, where I've used, later in the game, where I don't want to dedicate much to clearing out an objective, maybe you Oath of Moment that. And you're going to have to experiment here a little bit, because I lost my first 3 or 4 games, possibly down to some bad oath picking. But what's real weird is when I get into the examples, I've won the last 5 games I've played, and it seems like in every turn 1, I pick something big and scary, and in turn 2, I pick like a weaker unit that's maybe scoring. And I guess I've kind of done that without realizing. Anyway, let's go into some examples, right? So this was a game against Knights, and this little white card is the card that I've made. I'm going to get onto the cards later, and if you want to print out some of these custom cards that I've made, I'm going to tell you how you can do it at the end of the video. as this video is rendering, I'm actually going to be updating these cards with some 10th edition rules, so you'll be able to print them, take them to your games of 10th edition. Hopefully you won't lose track of things. Anyway, this card that I have here is marking this Oath of Moment. So in this game against Imperial Knights, in turn 1, I actually declared quite a lot of stuff off the board in this game, which maybe in hindsight wasn't the greatest idea, but this was a very infantry-heavy list against Knights, and it didn't do too well. But you can see here, turn 1, I've selected Armiger as the Oath of Moment target, because realistically I'm not getting anything over to these large Knights, so selecting those as Oath of Moment targets in turn 1 would probably have been folly, because I'm never going to get there to kill them. However, in turn 2, I then selected this large Knight as my Oath of Moment target, because I dropped down my Rapid Ingress Terminators, I believe here, and I had my Death Company ready to charge this other Knight. This Knight was -1 damage, and he was also -1 AP. So the Chain Fists that are normally -2 were only hitting him at -1, which I believe, and because he was -1 damage, I think the whole squad of like 8 Terminators, I think it was 10, but he killed a couple in Overwatch, the squad of 10 Terminators didn't actually drop this Knight. So in this case, it was actually the wrong target to pick Oath of Moment. I was convinced with Oath of Moment and the Terminators, because the Terminators get an additional bonus for, you know, to hit. They get an additional bonus to hit because of the Oath of Moment, but -1 damage crucified them, even with the Chain Fists and the anti-vehicle 3-up. So in this game, I think I should have probably picked this Knight as Oath of Moment. I think I should have probably played Red Thirst, or Red Rampage, sorry. Red Rampage on the squad of Death Company as well. I lost quite a few because I think in this game both Knights were able to Overwatch me. I think we played this game wrong, actually. It should have only been 1 Overwatch, but I think we played 2 because it was like our very first game of 10th edition. But this was a wrong choice. So I guess if you're ever fighting Knights, be wary of any -1 damage Knights. Melee is not going to do well into -1 damage at all. Basically halves your damage. And if they already have a good save, which these big Knights do, and you only have a couple of AP and they can reduce your AP, then that's really problematic. So I think in this game I should have picked the non-1 damage Knight. I think what happened is this Knight went down to about 6 or 7 wounds. He would have been dead if he didn't have the -1 damage. But hindsight 2020. So this was a bad game for me. Next up I played Chaos Daemons. And I think this was Nurgle Demons, actually. And I put my Oath of Moment on a Great Unclean one, because I had a squad of Desolation Marines high on a piece of terrain in my own deployment zone. I figured they could just kill this list, actually, 2 Great Unclean ones, and I lost to this list. But I figured that these guys could just kill the 2 Great Unclean ones one at a time. Oath of Moment 1, shoot them. The second he moves this one, Overwatch it, shoot it again with the Oath of Moment. And while this was good, the reason I lost this game was not the Great Unclean ones. The reason I lost this game was the Beasts of Nurgle. Beasts of Nurgle are like toughness 9. It's kind of ridiculous. And Horticulus, I believe, is the big slug that's attached to them, is toughness 10. So Dante and my Vanguard Veterans and my Death Company, I think I was still playing Thunderhammers at this point. I don't recommend you use Thunderhammers anymore. But they both got totally tar-pitted by like 2 Beasts of Nurgle, toughness 9. I'm only wounding on 5s. Wounding on 5s feels really bad. I think I even played Red Rampage over here to make it wound on 4s, but I guess because the Beasts of Nurgle, if you don't do 8 damage to them, they fully regenerate at the end of the phase. It just didn't go well. I should have, in hindsight, Oath of Momented over here. This would have cleaned up this objective so much quicker. So sometimes, I guess the thing that comes to my head from this one is like, don't Oath of Moment an enemy that's on the far side of the board that's not really doing all that much to threaten, right? He already has this objective that's hiding behind here. He already has this objective, so really I had to get these 3, right? So I should have probably Oath of Momented either the Beast of Nurgle here, or probably what would have made more sense is the Beast of Nurgle here. I thought that what I had down here would deal with the Beast of Nurgle, but toughness 9 on them is actually kind of crazy. So yeah, Beast of Nurgle, if you see them, beware. You need to do a lot of damage to them. They probably need to be Oath of Momented. Okay, next up is Eldar, and I got beat again by Eldar. So this is the three games at the start of. I think I lost my first 5 games of 10th edition, and then I've won the 5 since then. So it took me 5 games to get my list together, and 5 games probably to get my Oath of Moment targets together. In this game, he had a squad of Wraith Guard in the middle. They all have those like strength 10 Meltas. They're all D6 damage. They're pretty brutal. So I Oath of Moment at them, and I think that was kind of the right call because I charged them eventually with the Squad of Sangreguard and the Squad of Death Company, and I killed like 9 of them. I think, again, I possibly needed to play Red Thirst just to, or I keep wanting to call it Red Thirst, Red Rampage, to improve the wound roll against these guys. But I think these guys were so strong. Like, they're 2-up save, they're toughness 7, even with Oath of Moment, and I guess that was like Dante plus 5 Sangreguard plus 5 Death Company. Even that wasn't enough to drop them with Oath of Moment. So I think this was the right call to Oath of Moment in the squad. Obviously, it was holding the middle, and I needed to get some board presence. But you know what? Playing against Eldar at this point in the meta is super obnoxious. They're winning every event. As I film this, we haven't got the balance data slate, but it'll be out the day. So we should know. We should hopefully see some nerfs to Eldar. But regardless, Oath of Moment into a squad of Wraithguard felt like the right call. I mean, I could have probably killed some of these tanks or could have killed the jet bikes, but it didn't really matter. I feel like I couldn't leave these guys with all the melters in the middle. I think that was the right call, but I lost this game anyway. Next up, this is an interesting one, right, for you guys, because in this game, this was turn 2. So in turn 1, the demon player did literally nothing. He hid anything, I just moved out a little bit and shot. In turn 2, what he did was he dropped down Be'lakor, and then a great unclean one here, and a Bloodthirster. So basically, at the start of turn 2, I have a Bloodthirster, Be'lakor, and a great clean one, all right up in my midst, along with, this is 2 squads of Bloodletters. They're each led by a character, so it was like 20 Bloodletters, plus the Skull Taker, and I can't remember what the other character was, but this was basically shenanigans, because when you drop Be'lakor, he creates the Shadow of the Warp, and then they're able to deep strike within 6 inches because they arrive next to him and they're in the Shadow of the Warp. So this was a tough one, because it was like, alright, I've got Be'lakor needs to die, the Bloodthirster absolutely needs to die, who's getting Oath of Moment here? And I ended up going Oath of Moment on the Bloodthirster. And basically what that meant was I was going to try and focus some of my firepower into the Bloodthirster, and then my Centurions were actually in this Repulsor. So I think I called my Assault Doctrine, disembarked 3, moved 4, advanced D6, and then charged. And that was like the getting the Centurions into the middle on Be'lakor with their sustained hit 6. I kind of, it was such a difficult decision actually, because I was like, if the Centurions get in, every sustained hit will mean the chance of killing Be'lakor, but I don't know if I can just leave the Bloodthirster here. So I picked the Bloodthirster. I did actually kill the Bloodthirster, and I did so much damage to Be'lakor. You can see he ran away with 2 wounds. There's only 1 Centurion left, but the Centurions, even without Oath of Moment, did a boatload of damage. I think I rolled pretty hot actually. Centurions did a boatload of damage here. And then later in the game, you know, Be'lakor's still alive. There's a great unclean one still alive here. He's got like the Bloodletters and all that nonsense around here trying to take my objective from me. But I actually picked the Fiends of Slaanesh. I think they're called the Fiends of Slaanesh. Yeah, I'm sure they're Fiends of Slaanesh. I actually picked the Fiends of Slaanesh here because the reason I picked the Fiends of Slaanesh was, yes, I could kill Be'lakor with 2 wounds, but I figured I'd probably be able to do that like with the Predator and the Ballistus Dreadnought anyway. I'd now unloaded my Blade Guard from the Land Raider and was going to come in and kill the Nurglings in the middle, and there's only 1 beast left in the middle, so I feel like even though you'd have a beast in the middle objective would be mine because I'd have more OC. The reason I picked the Fiends here was because I've got like Stormbolters on this, and I've got like Stormbolters and Rocket Pods on this, and I've got defensive arrays on this. So this was what I was talking about. I'm going to use all my crappy firepower on these Fiends because with full rerolls to hit and wound, it's probably going to be enough saves where I can just chip these guys down to nothing left or very few wounds left. Then I could tank shock them, or I maybe even don't need to bother because my Repulsor is OC 5. So technically, once I've killed a couple of them, it's my objective. Probably actually just need to kill one of them and it's my objective. So this was kind of my thinking. So sometimes even though there's these big, huge bad guys on the tabletop, I want to make sure that my anti-chaff firepower, like my Repulsor defensive array, which is 18 shot, strength 4, no AP 1 damage, I want to make sure it's going to kill the chaff. Then if a las cannon can hit Bellicor or Las Cannon or two can hit the Great Unclean One, great. But I think I'd rather just make sure the chaff is gone, I hold the objective, and in this map, he actually moved everything off his backfield and stickied it. So I actually used like a rapid ingress to bring some Death Company down here to seal its objective. It was a pretty sweet move. I was pretty happy about it. Anyway, let's move on. This next game was against Sisters Battle, and he had 3 Immolator tanks. And each one had a squad of Retributors in it. So if he goes first, he's moving all these tanks up. He's unloading the Retributors. I believe they get reroll wounds or something when they come out on the turn they disembark. So he's going to have a boatload of multi-metals rerolling wounds. It's going to be really difficult to deal with. So obviously I want to kill an Eliminator turn 1. So whichever one I feel like I can get the most line of sight on. This one here, I've got 2 Vindicator tanks able to see it. 2 Vindicator tanks with Oath of Moment will blow something up pretty effectively. I had a Landspeeder here I could have possibly moved around, and if the Landspeeder could have seen that, I could have got +1 to hit as well, but I didn't really need to bother. And also these Predators here, they would be able to see over there if need must. I think they were able to see this way as well. So in turn 1, actually, here I killed 2 Immolators. I killed the one that I'd oathed, and I killed the other one. Maybe I just rolled hot with autocannons or whatever. It was pretty good. But then as the game goes on, you can see now he's moved this Immolator up. He's unloaded his Retributors to try and kill my Repulsor, so my Repulsor ended up taking a buttload of damage. I think I can see, there's still got 2 dice there, so I think it's still on +10 wounds. But then I Oath of Momented the squad of Retributors, because again, I don't want to waste any of my big las cannon shots or anything like that. You know, we lose the las cannons on the tanks. I just want to make sure that I'm killing those Retributors, so I don't need to really worry about them. There's a character there with them as well. I wanted to charge with the incursors that I had here. So yeah, in both these games that I won, first target I picked a big tank or a big monster. Second turn I picked something weaker that I could kill with my chaff firepower. So I'm definitely finding some value in using the chaff, the anti-chaff firepower. Here we go up against Imperial Guard. Turn 1 I picked the Rogel Dorn, big nasty tank. I have both Vindicators, and I have my Lancer, and I have my Repulsor, and even potentially a Predator that can all see this Rogel Dorn. So this is a perfect one where it's like I got 5 tanks that can see hit. Pretty much guarantees I'm going to be able to kill this tank. And then I was going to say, I think maybe in this one I just keep picking tanks. I think he had enough tanks. I don't remember ever targeting infantry in this game with my Oath of Moment, but a big tank where you can get line of sight for like 5 units is amazing. This game was against World Eaters, and he had Armigers with the autocannons. The autocannons are really good at killing infantry, so I just picked one of the Armigers, the one with autocannons, figured out a couple of las cannons / Vindicator up here that could actually just blow it up straight away, and I just sort of moved up. This was actually a super close game, and I actually killed both his the Chaos Armigers in turn 1 as well. The Gladiator Lancer had a bead right like here, and this Predator must have got like a slight bead here. So the Predator and Lancer killed one, and then the Ballistas and Vindicator killed another one. Good start. Like a list like this where I have enough firepower to basically oath one target, pick another target, and kill 2 tanks every turn. I've even had games where I almost killed 3 tanks. I think in this game I actually would have killed 3 tanks if he hadn't had a Feel No Pain on his Rhino. I think his Rhino would have been dead, but he had like 11 dice and a 6 at Feel No Pain. So that was that. In this game, this was still against the World Eaters. Angron came flying in from a deep strike and made a charge into, I believe this was, I think Angron had actually charged the Repulsor. If we go back a turn, you can see the Repulsor was here. So Angron had charged the Repulsor. He actually consolidated Angron into the Centurions. I did tell him the Centurions are no schmucks in combat. They did like 10 wounds to him. So they really, really profiled him. I think Angron was down to 5 wounds. Even though Angron was down to 5 wounds, I actually selected him for Oath of Moment, because he's got like toughness 10 and he's got 4 up invuln, and I didn't want to waste too much of my stuff shooting Angron, right? Like if I have bad wound rolls, I'm gonna have to shoot half my damn army at Angron. So even though Angron only had 5 wounds, I picked him as my Oath of Moment. I actually killed him with the first Vindicator that shot at him, but at the same time I just felt like it was a good idea to just be like, right, Angron just needs to die straight away, and then I don't need to worry about that. If my other shooting and stuff doesn't go as well as I'd hoped, then that shouldn't matter. And this game was super close because Angron actually revived in turn 4, and at the end of the game he was like munching over my army, and I just won in points. But Cool. We also played against Nids, and this was another victory. And in turn one, I picked, I think this is the Tyrannofex, or Tyrannosaur, something like that. The one that's got the giant big cannon, he had two of them. Obviously, he had one that was very visible and one that was not visible. So I picked the one that was visible. I have the Ballistus, I have a Predator tank, I have a Vindicator that could all draw line of sight on them. And I think I even maybe got like my Lancer to come around like this. And then I had line of sight through the middle, and I think this Predator fell back and had line of sight like this. So again, if you're playing something like this and you get 5 tanks that can see one target and you can Oath of Moment that target, then you can kill it very quickly and then get... And then I guess the trick is to pick units. You know, like if you pick these 2 units, for example, and shoot them, and for some reason that kills them early, then other units, make sure that you shoot with the units that can only see that Oath of Moment target first. So if the other units are not needed because Oath of Moment actually gives you a crazy good damage buff, then you're laughing, right? And I've actually been finding Gladiatus with this number of tanks and Devastator Doctrine to let all the tanks advance and fire their weaponry in turn one very, very useful. So again, I picked a big nasty target that I can see with multiple units. And if you've got a lot of range, like I do in my list, if you're picking units that have a lot of range as well, or you're picking big units that are going to deal with your tanks, if like my list has basically 6 units of armor, or 7 units of armor here, sorry, six tanks and 1 dreadnought, so 7. If you can kill the things that can deal with your tanks from range, then you can start to dominate the board very, very quickly. And I actually did dominate the board in this one, in that like later in the game, I think he had very little left, and I still had a bunch of tanks left. So this is turn 2. He didn't actually kill anything in turn 1. He did 12 wounds to my repulsor. My repulsor was still going. The Centurions came out the repulsor. They're going to try and deal with the swarm of Gaunts on the center objective. But over here, I got charged. My Vindicator got charged by a Malceptor. So I actually put Oath of Moment on the Malceptor. And the idea behind that was, like, this Malceptor is on my objective, and he's also tying up my Vindicator, you know, making it so I don't have as many target options. I figure over this side of the board, I've got one Vindicator, I've got the Repulsor, I've got the Predator, I've got the Gladiator. They'd probably be able to kill this other Malceptor. And what actually happened, this Malceptor went down to, like, 2 wounds, and then we tank shocked him. But over here, it just meant that, like, guarantee... The great thing about the Vindicators is they can fire the blast weapon in close combat, so pick the Malceptor, because I'm going to be -1 to hit because I'm firing into close combat, so that'll sort of negate the -1 to hit, I guess, from firing into close combat. And then, the strength 14 with rerolls to wound, I'm going to get a lot of wounds through, and then obviously the Demolisher Cannon is d6 damage a shot, so it's pretty great. So I guess this was a game where I actually picked big units for most of the game, because I think after that, I maybe picked his warlord was the Hive Tyrant, sorry. Haven't played Tyranids in ages. But yeah, I picked after I killed this, and I guess killed this Biovore and moved up, his Hive Tyrant was kind of trying to hide out behind here, but no, I think I killed him with I honestly think I killed him with a Demolisher tank. So I think one of the Demolisher cannons must have moved up and got the Hive Tyrant as well, and he was Oath of Moment too. So yeah. So that's kind of my thought behind all the Oath of Moment targets that I've been picking. Like I said, I'm just away while I render this video out. I'm going to update some of these cards. So if you need like a little Oath of Moment card, you can print them out just one side, cut these cards out, or you can print them out double-sided, have the little Blood Angels Commander logo on them. That's up to you. I'll put a link in the description to the PDF where I made these cards. So if you want to grab the cards, print them out, have them for your games, you can do that. Yeah, if you did enjoy tonight's video, if you got any value out of it, like, subscribe, support the channel either by joining, clicking the big button underneath the video on YouTube or over on Patreon. Channel membership / support is super appreciated. Thank you so much for watching to the end of the video. I am going to cover the Balanced Data Slate. I know it came out last night. We might talk about it a bit tomorrow on our Saturday night hobby hangout, but we're probably going to do some sort of like hot take, big winners video from the Balanced Data Slate. In hindsight, let me just say I really hope that they've done something to make melee more viable, because as much as I've been enjoying running the armor list, it definitely feels like melee has been I say melee. I mean, Blood Angels, infantry, jump pack, melee units. They certainly feel a lot weaker than they did in 9th edition, and I had very little luck when I was running them. I lost 5 games, and then I've won 5 games playing this armor heavy list. So I guess this Oath of the Moment video is maybe more armor heavy, but I think the principles of it stand, right? Like if you had a unit of armor with a lot of chain swords and you just wanted to not have to overcommit on a unit, I think that's viable from what I've seen. But I think the other thing to say is most of the time, if you're charging into monsters or vehicles with Blood Angels or infantry units, so like Death Company, Sanguinary Guard, Assault Marines, you need to be using Red Rampage. Ideally, you probably want to be using Oath of the Moment as well, but Red Rampage is so important. Our wound rolls kind of suck without Red Rampage, so make sure you're using that when you can. Leave me a comment down below if there's anything else you would like to say about this video, and also, I guess, stay tuned. We'll be covering the balanced data slate, we'll be talking about the future, hopefully we'll get some tournament winning lists on the channel again soon, and really hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks again, guys. I will catch you next time. By the blood, army made strong. Peace.